And welcome to Forum 360 on Western Reserve Public Television Fusion Channel and on the Rubber City radio stations. We have topics with a global outlook and a local view. And today, I'm your host, Bill Stephen Saus. Our guest is Mark Gerberich, President and CEO of the SoapBox Derby. And Mark, it's good to have you on Forum 360.
Hi, Bill. Nice to see you.
Tell us a little bit about your involvement, just to get started, how you got involved with, in your background to become involved with the SoapBox Derby, and then maybe give us a brief history of the Derby itself.
Sure. I just started there just over a year ago, and it's been very exciting for me. I've been in sports all my life. I managed the Pro Bowlers Tour as its commissioner from '96 to 2000, and then I spent about 10 years in facility management around the area. And when the job for SoapBox Derby came up, it was really cool. I liked the mission, you know, helping kids learn knowledge and character, you know, through meaningful experiences and collaborating with their parents and fair and honest play. So applied for the job and got it, and very excited to be there.
And it's an internationally recognized gravity sports. Could you kind of define the type of sport it is, gravity sport?
Yeah, so it's gravity racing, no engines, no motors, nothing. We give the kids kits to build with, and they build, and then, you know, there's a whole STEM portion of this thing where the kids are playing with weights and trying to lay down and maneuver their body within the car, you know, different ways so that they can get more aerodynamics, number one, and then more gravity.
Now the age group, you have an age group that within the parameters of a certain age group? Yeah,
we do. There's three different divisions that the kids can run in: stock, super stock, and then masters is the older one. But it's ages 7 through 21.
Wow! So you could be elementary up to college age.
Yeah, you know. So we had our first African American champion last year. Marlon Wells from Indianapolis is 18, was graduating from school, had been working on his car for 6 years, and you know, amazing of what he accomplished.
We'll talk a little bit more about how the young people get involved, but what's the brief history, in a nutshell, of what the All-American SoapBox Derby was about, when it got started, and it's was involved during the Franklin Delano Roosevelt administration with the WPA, the Work Project Administration. So give us a little history of how it all started.
Yeah, I was glad that you had brought that up the other day when we were talking, and yeah, started in 1934 with a newspaper guy in Dayton, Ohio.
Okay.
And he went to his editor and he said, hey, these kids are out there playing with these soapbox cars. You know, so orange crates and banana boxes and that sort of thing. And asked the kids to come back the next weekend, and they had the first race.
Wow.
Moved to Akron in 1935, over in Talmadge, the Talmadge Hill. And then, like you said, WPA, they built the hill at Derby Downs.
Which is right down by George Washington Boulevard.
It's George Washington Boulevard, the Akron Fulton Airport, the old Rubber Bowl.
Right.
You know, so we're
Southeast
right in that that Southeast Akron area.
So the event started in the Dayton area, and then there were men from other states that got involved, correct?
Correct.
And then they brought more information to Ohio. How can we get involved in these other states and Canada and so forth?
Yeah, so, you know, the other states started getting involved, you know, with the rubber factories here. There were a lot of people moving from Kentucky, West Virginia, Indiana, Pennsylvania to Ohio.
Right.
And so they had experienced this and brought, you know, cars along. So that's how we started spreading that way.
In Akron, Ohio, being the All-American SoapBox Derby, how many race cities contribute to the finals at Akron? How many cities around the country are involved?
Yeah, so first let me say our kids are really All-American, right? You know, it's that, you know, good old-fashioned mom baseball apple pie this iconic brand of SoapBox Derby.
Right.
So we have 100 race cities around the country, about 250 races a year, 4,000 kids building cars to try and qualify for this World Championship, which is owned by Akron, Ohio, right?
Yes, right.
I don't care what event it is, but when you say the World Championships in Akron, Ohio, that's really cool. So that takes place every year in July, and 400 kids descend on the city. And I say more people take their family vacation in Akron, Ohio because of the SoapBox Derby than any other reason.
Now, at one time, some of the major corporations, even to this day, like First Energy, got involved, like Chevrolet, General Motors got involved, the tire companies. So you've always had that type of corporate support as well as private contributions, correct?
Well, First Energy's vital to this thing. You know, Chuck Jones and his team have always really supported the Derby,
Right.
and about 10 years ago got involved really in a big way supporting the SoapBox Derby. So it's the First Energy All-American SoapBox Derby in July. Mm-hmm. But up till 1971, it was really owned by Chevrolet. Chevrolet was spending $1 million. Can you imagine?
Wow.
$1 million in 1971. And we would have crowds of 70,000 people because the Bonanza crew would be here, Jimmy Stewart, Dinah Shore.
All the Hollywood people.
All the Hollywood people would descend on Akron for a week, and everybody came out to Akron, you know, to watch the race, just to, you know, for the off chance to meet Jimmy Stewart or Dinah Shore.
And then a lot of the major television networks were picking up on this. The news networks were showing about the parade, how they would have a parade down Main Street in Akron, and it certainly brought a lot of information. But there is a website, by the way, soapboxderby.org, soapboxderby.org, if you want to get a little more involved. Will there be a way for people in the Northeast Ohio area, Western Pennsylvania area, our viewing audience, and people listening to the Rubber City radio stations, to find out how their children or their grandchildren can get involved in this type of program?
Absolutely. Our website is great, like you said. There's tons of information on our website. So if you want to race cars, the people in the Akron area, we have what we call barn cars.
Wow.
So there's cars that they can borrow just to try. And then if they like it, then they can build their own car. And we have YouTube videos set up so that people can understand how to build those
Learn
cars.
how to do it.
Yeah.
And then you have examples of, like a museum there at the Derby Downs on George Washington Boulevard. You have an example of some of the earlier cars and how they've developed and they're transitioned over the years.
Yeah, so the cars have really transitioned over the years, right? You know, we saw the real soapbox cars back in the beginning. And then, you know, when women were first able to start racing in 1971,
Right.
we have the champion car from 1975 there. And then we have some controversy in the race where somebody put a magnet in the car.
Yeah.
You know, so we have that car, but
So challenges are made, and you know, you have to challenge anybody that's doing it out of the correct competition rules, correct? And
yeah, so we have a great group of volunteers, a veteran crew that check all the cars in prior to the race.
Okay.
And then if you finish in the top 3, they'll take your car apart.
Right.
You know, so that's where, you know, even if you're hiding something, hope that you don't finish in the top 3.
So the qualifying occurs across the country, and even in some of the Canadian and other countries, there's qualification, and then it comes back to Akron. So months and months pass, and then finally the event occurs in Akron. Tell us about that major event in Akron. What are some of the steps that you have to take to get ready for that?
Well, I think it's really cool because it's really all about the champions. And you had referred to the parade downtown.
Right.
So we start with the parade, kicking the event off on Monday afternoon.
Wow.
And then all the champions are introduced in downtown Akron at Lock 3.
Wow.
So Jason Sokol does a great job of introducing all the champions.
Rubber City Radio.
Rubber City Radio, who's a great partner of ours.
Right.
They're really involved with us. And so that's on Monday. Then we have some breakout races on Tuesday and Wednesday. So everybody that comes to the All-American race gets to go down the track at least twice.
Wow.
So they'll race on Tuesday or they'll race on Wednesday. Thursday's more of a fun day. We have a build clinic where kids' names are pulled out of a hat, and they have 2 hours to build a car and then race them down. Wow. And there's some parent races where parents are pulled just to get to race down. So Thursday's more of a fun day. Friday is for our inclusion kids, so special needs. Kids have a world championship on Friday.
Wow.
And then on Saturday, their final races are included with the regular final races.
That's great. So you're really inclusive. And the STEM program, which is in education, it's science and technology, engineering, and mathematics.
Correct.
So teachers in public and private schools across the country and homeschoolers, if they are in a STEM education program, this would be a great project to get involved in. I notice you have a program guide there.
Yeah, we brought the mini car workbook along for you.
And the mini car workbook, it talks about the gravity-powered design, gravity-powered technology, and the physics of starting your own SoapBox Derby. And there's a workbook, and so if you're a family member or a teacher or a principal of a school and you want to order some of these, you can get these from the SoapBox Derby?
Yeah, absolutely. What we talk about is for 80 years, kids have been doing STEM.
Wow.
They build their car, they figure out how to get it down the track
Science,
faster.
technology, engineering, and then the mathematics, trying to figure out, the geometry of it.
Yeah, the aerodynamics, what's the friction with the wheels, how can we make the car more aerodynamic and get it down the hill?
Yeah, it's wonderful.
And so those kids have been doing that a long time. So the previous regime introduced the STEM programs, and it's fantastic. In Akron this year, in every 8th grade Akron public school, they are using this mini car curriculum with a tabletop wind tunnel and a 3D printer.
Excellent.
So really cool for the city of Akron, which is what we're really about, right? We're so missional. Everybody talks about one race a year,
right,
but we're really missional in providing that meaningful experience to a lot of kids.
Our guest is Mark Gerberich, the CEO, president of the SoapBox Derby. And we're here in Akron, the area, talking about the SoapBox Derby over Western Reserve Public Television, the Fusion Channel. Our host is the Hudson Community Television Center, and we appreciate their cooperation, and the Rubber City radio stations of Akron. Let's talk about the improvements to the Derby Downs racetrack, Mark. Yeah, a little bit of improvement on that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things going on. My first thing when I walked in is there was no scoreboard.
Okay.
So we're hopeful that we get a scoreboard up and running. We work with our partners, GPD Group, an architectural firm, and they've started looking at the property so we can figure out how we can make improvements around the grounds.
Gotcha.
Right? Most of the time there's just porta potties there, which for guys is no big deal.
Right.
But for the women is, so we're looking at permanent restrooms. Like you had talked about before, is that museum.
Right.
How do we make this really proud to show the history, especially here in Akron, as we get bus tours through the area,
yes,
so that they can see the history, the rich history of the SoapBox Derby through the years.
And the Ohio Historical Society has a plaque in front. I noticed it when I visited recently, and that describes the history and why the Derby Downs is such an important piece of that history. We have actually a picture of the Derby Downs and some of the, we'll share that with our audience also. But if you want more information, again, soapboxderby.org. Soapboxderby.org is the website. And there's a phone number also, 330-733-8723, which will get you to the Derby Downs offices, the headquarters, the All-American Soapbox Derby. What are your goals for the next few years and some of the innovations you're looking to see?
Yeah, so, the passion for me is kids and mission, right? So teaching these kids life skills so that they can grow up and be contributing adults. That's first and foremost.
Very good.
If you go anywhere else, it really becomes difficult. So you have to keep mission first and foremost. Number two, we're really focused on growing and strengthening our local races around the country. We've had a dip over the last few years where numbers are falling down. So growing that back is going to be really important. So we've hired a business development person to help us grow the sport, both on the education basis and racing basis around the country.
Now, you have a staff, but then you have an entire group of volunteers, a cadre of volunteers that you're trying to promote. And how do you get the volunteers involved? Is there training for your volunteers? And how can, people are going to be calling or checking the website to get involved?
Yeah, I think there's two things. One of the things is when I first started, I said, how does this race come off? And you're looking for all the, how does the event work? And they go, well, the volunteers just show up, the event goes off, and the volunteers go home.
Yeah.
So in one group, we have this veteran group of volunteers we call Derby Nation. They've been so passionate about the Derby all their life, and they keep doing what they do so well. Like last year we had a rainstorm to start the race, and as soon as the rainstorm was over, all the volunteers just kick right into action and get the kids going down the hill. But we really need volunteers because it's very human resource intensive, loading cars, driving people, and making sure everybo's safe going down the hill.
What's the capacity of Derby Downs now as far as people that can go actually watch the race, the number of seats and so forth?
Well, there's bleachers that have up to 5,000.
Wow.
And then you see the picture that we've shown the people at home where there's 70,000 people in the stands and down the hill.
Wow.
We want to get back to that 5,000 number. Right. So if we can take steps to grow back to that. So one of the things we're doing this year for the All-American, or in coming years for the All-American, is trying to make it more of an entertainment instead of just a race. So we're trying to add music. We're trying to add events around. The Akron Zoo is a great partner of ours. So bringing some animals there to the Derby Downs.
Right. Nice.
The other thing is our marketing committee's been working really hard to try and figure out how to put people in the bleachers, because what ends up happening is people line the hill. So they put up their canopies and line the hill, and so there aren't that many people sitting in the bleachers when the kids are finishing. So we're talking about a contest and giving away prizes if you're sitting in the bleachers at the end of the day.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
So the only way to win the prize is to be sitting in the bleachers.
Stay there for that.
So having contests and giveaways, and that's with Dominic Rizzo at Rubber City Radio Group. He chairs our committee and comes up with a lot of these ideas that we're trying to make the event better.
It's great that the area has so many people involved in it, and many of the folks that I've talked to were actually, I've talked to a few folks that actually participated as a youth, and they're grandparents now, and they're trying to get their youngsters, the newer generation to get involved now.
Well, and I think it's great, right? Those high school students are always looking for those volunteer hours.
Right.
So come out with your parent or grandparent and volunteer for our races. The other thing is we provide a lot of meaningful experiences at the track, so there's a lot of other events going on there. It used to be, and everybody in Akron still refers to it as the All-American race, right? So they think we use the track one day a year. Our staff is hard at work, working about 85 race days per year.
Excellent.
So we have middle school, high school, college races. We have Inclusion Day with GPD as our partner. The event that sells out every year is our Senior Day, which is sponsored by Cleveland Clinic Akron General. We've added Family Day, which is now sponsored by Legacy Motors, which is also a partner of Rubber City Radio.
You have United Way Corporate Challenge.
We do. We do the United Way Corporate Challenge with Falls Way. And then this year, in 2018, it looks like we're going to add a Veterans Day, a Veterans Appreciation Day, to let all our veterans get down the hill.
Super.
And that looks like it's going to be sponsored by Sam's Club.
See, these are the kind of programs that we're so fortunate to have the SoapBox Derby, because it's a brand that the Akron and Northeastern Ohio area can be very proud of. Again, our guest, Mark Gerberich, is with the SoapBox Derby as the president and CEO. Tell us a little bit about your staff. What are some of the things that your staff and who they are, what they do, to make sure the programs are all done properly?
Well, I think there's two things you should know about our staff, right? Number one is they're hardworking, right? You know, anybody that's working in the not-for-profit world, they're passionate and hardworking.
Right.
The other thing about our staff that we really want people to know is that we do a lot of volunteer work outside of SoapBox Derby.
Okay.
So United Way does a book drive every year where they're loading 30,000 books into schools that need books.
Right.
You know, we kind of take it for granted that there's books in every library. But that's not a true statement. So we help with the book drive. We volunteer for the Akron Marathon. We're doing a lot with the zoo, a lot with the rubber ducks. You know, so what's really neat about the not-for-profit world, especially in Akron, Ohio, and Summit County, is that we're all great collaborators, right? You know, we get so much support from the zoo. We get so much support from Boys and Girls Clubs and the rubber ducks.
Right.
And so the people managing those companies, you know, are very passionate about helping others. And so our staff is really involved. We have a big event staff, so we hire college students to help on the summer team for events. But you know, all the marketing that has to get done, you know, the financial things that need to get done with the event. The other one for us that's big is community, like I talked about. You know, collaboration is really important and meaningful experiences. So there's a lot of underserved community in Akron. You know, so United Way, Huntington, GAR, a lot of the foundations, the Knight Foundation, are really into the neighborhoods and helping people in the neighborhoods.
Exactly, right.
And so, you know, we have South Street Ministries, Urban Vision,
all
the
get
YMCA,
involved with the SoapBox.
they all do, right?
Now, when you have to travel to the other cities, and they say, Mr. Gerberich, we're a city in, you know, Oregon, and we want to improve our SoapBox Derby activity, or we're in Texas, or you or your colleagues have to travel and kind of explain, here's how the process works. Is there a typical training that you give these other cities?
We do. So, you know, one of the most important things we think is starting a board, right? Getting a board that has all the different people on there that can help you in different ways, right? You know, how do you go out and raise money? How do you get volunteers? You know, how do you reach into the community? That sort of thing. One of the things that I've taken on is trying to help those cities around the country raise money.
Right.
So we're pointing them to the foundations. You know, can we help them put together sponsorship proposals that we can utilize, you know, out in the communities?
Well, I think, you know, we talk about the major league sports, the rubber ducks in the minor leagues here in town, but there's so much that Akron, Cleveland area, Northeast Ohio, Youngstown, Canton, get involved with major sports. I mean, we have the Hall of Fame in Canton for football. We have now the SoapBox Derby here, the events for the golf industry and the sport of golf in Northeast Ohio with Firestone, Canterbury, and many of these great events. But it's good to see this type of event brings youth, brings family together, And I think today with our economy and many things are moving people so far away from family life that this is a great opportunity to have in Akron and Northeast Ohio the SoapBox Derby.
Yeah, we're proud to be part of that, right? The family unit's changing. You know, people are involved with so many different things in their life now. And so that's why we think the education portion of the racing is really vital. So we have middle school, high school, and college races. Instead of one person being on that team and working with a parent, there's 8 to 10 people that are on that team working on that project.
Well, thank you for being with us, Mark Gerberich, and bringing us a little more information on the SoapBox Derby, the history of it, how it's really been involved in Northeast Ohio and the Akron area. We appreciate your being here with Western Reserve Public Television, Rubber City Radio again, and with our Hudson Cable Television audience. Again, this is Bill Stephen Saus. I appreciate your listening and viewing. And Mark, thank you very much for being a part.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks for the SoapBox Derby.
Yeah, we're glad to be a part of the community.
Have a good week.
Forum 360 is brought to you by Electrical Impulse Communications, the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, Hudson Community Television, the Rubber City Radio Group, an anonymous donor, the Jewish Community Board of Akron, Medical Mutual of Ohio, Blue Green, and Forum 360 supporters.